investors buying properties, inheriting property violations or court cases, what's something during their due diligence that you recommend as a buyer's attorney, or maybe it's just the attorney that's supposed to be doing it, that investors, local or out of state, should be looking at before buying here in Chicago?
Okay. In real estate transactions that I handle, let's say from the buyer's perspective, first thing, if you're out of state, there's an attorney modification period that comes in, and you have your standard disclosures that the seller is required to make. Additionally, when I do modifications, I add specific requests as to, any knowledge, seller has any knowledge about any kind of violations, pending violations, and what's been done to fix it or remediate it. Now, a seller can willfully ignore that or misrepresent, and you have a potential cause of action against that seller for misrepresenting if they knew, hey, they did get written notice of some violations they existed and they didn't correct it and they didn't tell the buyer. So that's one step. That's kind of like the first step, just to put the seller on notice, hey, you need to let us know of any due diligence issues. Secondarily, you can go to chicago.gov and look up building code violations. So that's housing court based, administrative court based violations. And you can pull that up by just putting in the property address. If you have the property PIN or the tax identification number for the property, you can also search for it that way, and you'll be able to pull up the history. It's still a little archaic and a little bit unclear as to what's going on in the case on the electronic docket when you pull it up, but you can also contact the City of Chicago or City of Chicago attorneys, and there's numbers to reach. You can also call 311 to see if there's any violations on the property, so that's another option as well. And then finally, there's a difference between administrative court and the housing court, which actually takes place at the Daly Center, where that's governed by the Cook County Clerk of Court. And you can go to that website for the Circuit Court of Cook County Clerk of Court, and you can either locate the type of case. If there's any type of case named against that owner, you can type in and try to find it through a search, and you can pull up any case that might be named against that owner and pull up housing court case, or you can identify it by the property address. Usually in housing court cases, you'll have the property address listed in there, and it'll show up on a list of cases and may pop up there. Now, electronically, you can't obtain the copy of the complaint, but of course you can, through your attorney or however you choose to, you can address that during your attorney review period. Like, hey, this popped up. Can you provide us documents or let us know what happened with this? And to be honest, I mean, sometimes sellers aren't even aware. They do, sometimes notices go missing in the mail and they don't know about it. So it's not necessarily true that, that a seller is purposefully, withholding information. I've seen it happen, of course, but, I try to think optimistically on that one, that everybody's working in good faith, right?
Yeah, well, the city's database on mailing address is not up to date. So when those violations get sent to the property lot and the guy lives in Atlanta, that guy in Atlanta definitely does not know, because the tenant does not usually share that with him. So it's a good point that not all sellers are bad, but there's a lot of information out there that could hurt you, even if the seller is not bad.
Yeah. And I'll say if there's, people think about litigation, I want to sue him. Like there's part of one of the elements of the burden that they have to meet is that the seller had knowingly withheld this information. So it's, but usually those things work themselves out throughout the contract negotiation time.